trying to track the origins of Islam has been like chasing a mirage. The Arabs conquer half the world, but they don't talk about Muhammad. There's no mention of Mecca. So what do they do in detective stories? They follow the money. Any of these? What's the first coin that actually mentions the name of the Prophet Muhammad on the coins? Do any of these coins mention Muhammad by name?
With Muawiyah.
Yeah, but is the name of the Prophet Muhammad mentioned?
No.
Every coin tells a story. Every inscription conveys an idea of power. But sometimes what's not on the coin can be just as significant as what is. It would be nice to see the earliest coin that mentions Muhammad.
The earliest coin that has Muhammad's
has the name of Muhammad.
They don't have it, but
because it's odd that we're 60 years on from the death of Muhammad and no mention of Muhammad. For nearly 60 years, the rulers of the Arab Empire didn't put Muhammad on their coins, and then they did. Maybe 60 years was what they needed to work out what the story really was. Maybe the issue isn't why Muhammad was not on the coinage at the beginning, but how he got there in the end. What if I've been asking the wrong question? What if it wasn't Islam that gave birth to the Arab Empire, but the Arab Empire that gave birth to Islam? The empire was rich beyond imagining. By the mid-680s, it stretched from northern Persia to Egypt and North Africa. But who had the right to rule it? A vital question on which the Arabs could not agree. And with so much to play for, they began to turn upon themselves. It's 680, 50 years on from the death of Muhammad. A deadly spiral of rebellion and civil war is threatening the Arab Empire with implosion. And from deep within the Arabian desert, a new claimant to the empire emerges. His name, Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr. And Ibn al-Zubayr is going to change the game. What I've got here is the coin that I was looking for in the Coin Museum, and it's stamped quite literally with the genius of Ibn al-Zubayr. It was struck in 685, 686, so that's more than half a century after the death of Muhammad. And it bears a novel and fateful slogan: in the name of God, Muhammad is the prophet of God. And so here, at last, emerging from out of the black hole, we get a mention of a Muhammad who is a prophet. And this is the first time we have it on any inscription, any surviving document. Ibn al-Zubayr had essentially realized what Constantine, the first Christian Roman emperor, had realized long before him, that it was no good the lord of an earthly empire laying claim to the favor of God unless he could absolutely demonstrate the cast iron basis on which he was making that claim. And Constantine, in his attempt to obtain that sanction, had turned to the Christian church. But Ibn al-Zubayr turns to the figure of Muhammad. Now, as it happens, Ibn al-Zubayr loses the civil war. He is defeated by a rival warlord who lays claim to the empire of the Arabs. But the discovery that the name of Muhammad can be used to buttress earthly power, that is not forgotten. The civil war had been a very close-run thing. And the victorious warlord, Abd al-Malik, had no intention of ever again allowing Muhammad's legacy to fall into the hands of a dangerous rival. The Romans had known all about religion and power. When they had become Christian, they had redrawn the map of Jerusalem. Now, Abdul Malik set about fashioning a holy city of his own.
God, it's beautiful.
The Dome of the Rock. It's the oldest Islamic building in existence. In design, it was Roman. And Abdul Malik was doing something else that was Roman, plugging his dominion into the power of God. On the walls, there is an unequivocal mission statement. Religion, in the eyes of God, is Islam. There are mentions of Muhammad, quotations from the Quran. At last, something that we can recognize unmistakably as a new religion.
There's a sense here of something new coming into being. There's the sense of the old, the Roman-style pillars and the mosaics, and yet this is clearly not Roman, this is clearly not Christian. This is the beginning of something very, very potent, a harbinger of a spectacular future.
It was built on the very site of the old Jewish temple. Down here, the foundation stone of the world, the very junction of heaven and earth.
This is quite possibly one of the most awesome places on the entire planet. It is deeply, deeply holy, not to one, but to two great religions. It's the place where Jews believe God inhabits on earth, the Holy of Holies, the Shekinah. And to Muslims, it is the cave that Muhammad prayed in after being brought here from Mecca before he ascended to heaven to be confirmed as the seal of the prophets. So, in religious terms, this is like a sort of nuclear reactor, firing out isotopes and power.
It's certainly a very grand statement that we Muslims have superseded you Jews. And we have superseded you Christians by being filled with inscriptions directed against Christian Trinitarian beliefs. So it is Muslims saying, we are here, we've come to stay, and we are the winners.
Abdul Malik now rules his empire as the deputy of God, just as the Christian Roman emperors had done. And like the Roman emperors, he has built a house of God in Jerusalem. But Abdul Malik, Lord of Jerusalem though he is also an Arab. Perhaps for Arabs, Jerusalem, for all its ancient and unrivaled potency, owed too much to the Jews and Christians to stand alone as the holy city of the new Arab empire. A poet at Abdul Malik's court describes him as the lord of two houses sacred to God, one in Jerusalem and one, well, he doesn't say where it is. And for 100 years after the death of Muhammad, no one says where it is.
All sources go on calling it a place in the desert. It's a sanctuary in the desert, without giving it a name.
And at some point, this sanctuary must have been fixed at Mecca, in the middle of the desert. But why?
The truth of the matter is we don't know what was the true religion of the first Arab conquerors.
It's an Arab story. Arabs come from the desert. God is speaking to the Arabs. They don't want Jews or Christians having any influence on Muhammad. The Quran is in Arabic, The Quran is full of characters from the Bible, but if the book came out of the desert, how did these characters get there?
We have nothing. We have this one book out of nothing. We don't have the key that can unlock the tradition.
But maybe that's the point. We're not supposed to unlock the tradition. God's message comes to a prophet, the prophet lives in a desert. There is no room for anyone else.
It's remote. It's remote, it's uncontaminated, it's pure. It's a place where we can rule out that Muhammad got his ideas from others than God.
It's interesting that this rationalistic history is very weak in being able to provide causes for certain effects. Not being able to know something is no proof that it doesn't exist.
You begin by looking in the record, and all you find is emptiness. And you end up in the desert, and all you see is emptiness. But perhaps the emptiness is the answer. Maybe Mecca gave Islam what it most needed. A blank sheet where Muslims could put their prophet beyond the reach of history.